Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Moving on, the relationship with one's family is generally one of dysfunction and control. Yeah. This is what family is seen as, synonymous with control. This is the reason to get married, so that somebody you can have to say, didn't I tell you, you shouldn't do this? This is how it is seen. But the Upanishad gives us a much more functional way of being, so that we don't confuse this dysfunction with love. This is what, people say, you're asking me to give up my family. No, I'm not asking you to give up your family. I'm asking you to give up the dysfunctional connections and relationships in your way of relating. No, but they are continuing to, let them do. We are not worried about them. You fix up yourself, and then you will see the miracle that the whole world falls into place if you fix up yourself, proving further what the Upanishad says, that all that matters is you. All that there is you. So you don't say, this person is not doing that. That person should change for me to change. This is not a healthy relationship. That's called codependency. So here, we are talking of making it much more functional and objective. And so Vairagya, frequently translated as dispassion, is actually objectivity. So objectivity. Objectively, I relate to the loved ones. Keeping facts in mind. What is the fact? The child, it does not belong to you. It came through you, but it doesn't belong to you. No, but I made the child. Really? You ask any mother, do you know how to make lungs? She'll say, what? No, I don't know how to make lungs. Do you know how to make kidneys? She'll say, no, I know how to make rajma, that is kidney beans. But not kidneys. I don't know how to make kidneys. I don't know how to make blood, bones, nothing. So really you think the baby, you have made the baby. You have not made the baby. Someone else has made the baby. You're just carrying it, that's what. I like that expression, carrying. You're carrying it. And even after it's born, you're carrying it, you're carrying it, you're carrying it. You're helping it gain samskaras, you're carrying it, you're growing it up. And this is the way to see everything that is in life as a big present, as a gift. Yeah. Guru, come this side a little bit, I can't see you. Yeah, there we go. So, this is the way to have a functional relationship with everything. This is what is called prasada buddhi. That is why we named everything prasad. Frequently, if you go to India, the houses are named. So many prasads are there. Devi prasad, this prasad, that prasad. Children are named prasad. Prasada means, I have nothing to do with this, really. And it's also very validating for the parents, because parents, especially the modern day, tend to feel guilty. Because everybody is working and the child is alone. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten helicopter. I'm coming to it, yeah. I'm not fooled you into coming to this class. So, the prasada here, refers to something that you haven't asked for, which has come, and you gratefully and gladly accept it. And it's very validating for the parents. It takes away the guilt if you regard the child as prasada, regardless of what you have named it. You have the idea that this is a prasada. It's very validating, because if the child grows up from childhood to being a hood, the parents are not responsible, really. It has its own karma. That's why I always say, Lalu's mother was very clever, very wise lady. Which Lalu? Exactly. Very, very wise lady. And so this way, it's an insulation. This is a factual way in which we can insulate ourselves from hurt, misery, entanglement, dysfunctional entanglement, all big, big blocks to gaining happiness. Vairagya is happiness. And this has to become very clear, because Vairagya is seen as, people still say it will leave a vacuum in my life, what will I do? Buy a vacuum cleaner, that's all I can say. Yeah. It's not going to leave a vacuum in your life. Because the Vairagya is the process whereby you learn to fill up with yourself, with your own glory. Oh, but I don't feel particularly glorious. That is why you need Shrotriya. You need to become a Shrotriya, you need more Shravanam. To discover that you are the most glorious thing that there is, and anything that you seek, no matter what it is that you pursue, you are really after this Ananda. And that's why it is so elusive, because whatever you pursue comes to an end. And if that is the thing that you are pursuing, you should be satisfied, okay, but you are not. That shows that you are not pursuing that thing. You are pursuing the forever attached to that thing, wrongly attached. So the forever makes a U-turn from all the objects in the universe to the truth of oneself. That is what the forever is about, discovering oneself as forever. And that forever being everything, there is nothing to want. Then of course comes another question, what about all my goals and ambitions? Goals and ambitions, you are free to pursue. You are free. You don't have the pressure, I have to get this done. You don't have the stress, you don't have the fear attached to that. You are objective. Vairagya means objectivity. But we were discussing how to graduate from celestial Manushya Gandharvanam Ananda to Deva Gandharva Ananda. And here a certain level of objectivity is required and the same motel theory. Motel with regard to the house, and then motel with regard to the loved ones. It's not that you stop caring. You care adequately. This is not an excuse to keep the house like a sty of the pig. Okay? Yeah. There was a question here last time. A worried attendee said, a very concerned attendee said, what about the people who might get encouraged from this talk and say that, oh, I don't have to upkeep the house at all. Yeah. You have to upkeep. Upkeep means you have to take care of. Even the motel room, when it's given, you cannot trash it. There will be consequences. You have to upkeep, but no more, no less. And finding that right balance is the dance called life. This is our own Leela. This is what it is. And so therefore, I was talking of the contrasting kinds of parenting. Then there is the helicopter parent. Who is the helicopter parent? Like the helicopter, the parent hovers close noisily. You come this side. You, Prashant, come this side. Right there. The parent hovers close noisily all the time. Yeah, makes an annoying chopping noise. This is the chopper parents or the helicopter parents. Yeah. Call home. Okay, when I reach. No, on the way call. When? I've just left. No, call. Where are you now? Yeah, this is the cell phone greeting. Nobody says hello. Tum kaha ho? Where are you? What are you doing? Now where are you? Now I'm at the intersection. Now where are you? I'm taking a left. Careful. How can I be careful when I'm talking to you? Hang the phone up. Okay, I'll hang it up. Now where are you? I've just finished taking the left turn. Now where are you? I'm at the next signal. This is helicoptering. When one is so worried, again one forgets that we are not in charge of anything. We are not in charge. We think that we are keeping this whole world afloat and alive. Like if I withdraw my contribution, oh my God, the whole thing will come crumbling down. No one is indispensable, really. Nothing is indispensable. Nobody is indispensable. And it is wonderful to have that attitude towards the parenting, towards the marriage. That's why the Hindu marriages are all done with help of horoscopes. Because there is no dating and all these things are not there. There is no dating, after dating, hating. Both are not there. First you date, then you hate. We don't have that. We do allow dating. Really? When? How? The horoscopes date in the astrologer's house. They sit side by side, they get to know each other. Horoscopes go for a date. They have an overnight stay in the astrologer's house. Where, and astrology means we are not relying on planets. We are relying on that which the planets just are a blueprint of. What is that? Bhagavan. Karma. That's what it is. And even today, I know couples who have married sight unseen. They have not even seen each other. They say we have to live together, okay? If not this one, another one, same issues. This is very objective. And then, okay, what's the point of seeing before and having expectations and getting disappointed? So may as well just, wait to be pleasantly surprised perhaps, because there is really no expectation. In Oregon, I know a couple who never even saw each other. Both of them said, why bother? They were given the chance. They were told the horoscopes have dated, they match perfectly, and they said, why bother? No, don't worry, we'll just see each other on the wedding day. And that's what they did. And this shows a certain trust. So do you see where we are headed? Vairagya and trust are connected. Shraddha. Shraddha here perhaps in the ways of the elders. Shraddha, of course, in the source of everything, Bhagavan as Ishvara, Brahman, which we are going to see very shortly. Shraddha in the whole. Shraddha in my own karma. Whatever I have to face. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what they look like and what their likes and dislikes are. We don't have this matching of the likes and dislikes. Here, such an advanced society, America, USA, they say, oh, we don't believe in that primitive arranged marriage. We believe in dating and meeting. Oh, so what do? I enter my profile on match.com. Yeah. What profile? What is that? All my raga dveshas I enter, likes and dislikes. Whole list of them. I like movies, I like songs, I like this, I like that, I hate this. Then what? Then that other person would have also entered something similar. Fir uske baad fir kya? What happens after that? Then the computer matches. Arey, this was better, at least a live astrologer was, looking properly, some educated Pandit was seeing the prospects of a happy married life in between two people. But here some random computer just churns out some matches. This is what it is. Supposedly an advanced way of finding one's partner. And 5 years later what happens? The likes and dislikes of course change. You didn't like what you like now, 10 years ago. That has changed. So the likes and dislikes change, and if the whole marriage is based on likes and dislikes, you may as well get married standing in quicksand. Yeah. Why? Because as you are getting married, there is a sinking feeling. We don't have that. There is something that Vairagya and Shraddha go together. So goals are there, ambitions are there, my ability to follow is there, that I have done my best is also there, after that I leave it alone. This is what is Vairagya, the ability to let go. And the ability to let go does not come without cultivating the ability to trust. To trust in what? That which is infallible. What is that which is infallible? That which is infallible is Allah, correct? And for us, that is Bhagavan. To say Bhagavan is infallible is a setup. But we say, wherever I see infallibility, there I see Brahman in the form of Ishvara. What is this Brahman in the form of Ishvara? I thought I was Brahman till yesterday, and now suddenly you are saying Brahman in the form of Ishvara. Where did this person come from? Here what we are talking about is Jagat Karanam. So whenever the equation is made between Atma and Brahman, yesterday we talked about the Swarupa Lakshana. Remember I said Lakshana? What is Lakshana? Definition. Yeah. The definition of Brahman we studied yesterday. It is called Swarupa Lakshana. Swarupa Lakshana means what? Its own nature, that it doesn't give up. And that was described as Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam. That existence which has no beginning, no end, that uncreated, limitless consciousness, which is all knowledge without any divisions between knower and known. Where the knower known are just but statuses that come out of this knowledge. That is one definition of Brahman. Also given in the Taittiriya Upanishad is another definition in the very next chapter called Bhrigu-valli. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanti tad vijijñāsasva tad brahmeti. Bhrigu goes to his father Varuna and says, Adhihi Bhagavaha Brahma. Please teach me about this Brahman. Because one definition of Brahman is incomplete. Because this is what is it's even though it's a complete definition in itself, it is very difficult to encounter Brahman as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam without the Jagat. This Jagat cannot be lifted off and made to disappear. Sometimes people say, I want only Brahman, I don't want Ishvara. They come to Vedanta and then they say, where you have just spoiled my listening process, because I didn't come to study about Ishvara, I only came to study about myself. Idiotic, because the person is Ishvara. This is what we have to see. So the definition of Brahman with the Swarupa Lakshana is incomplete as far as the manifest Jagat is concerned. Oh, but then I'll wait for a state to everything de-manifest. Laya will come. Then I will be, studying about Brahman as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman. You know what? Be my guest. Keep waiting. Then what will happen? The Laya, you will also not be there. Neither will you have Jijñāsa. Neither will you have Mumuksha. You will not have desire for freedom, you will not have seeking, you will not have a human upadhi, you will not have a human brain cells to pursue this knowledge. You will not need this knowledge, you will all be in one big soup called Brahman. Oh, but that's nice, I'll become one with Brahman. Such people, what we have to say? Om Namaha. That's all. You talk to them for a while, after that you say Namaha. No, but I want to become one with Brahman. Yes, you will become one. Until, if the initial longing and the primal ignorance has not been quenched, you will not remain one. What will happen? You will be reincarnated again in the next yuga. That's what. Because this whole cycle of manifestation and demanifestation of the Jagat continues. If the initial quest, why I am here, is not resolved, it will continue. You will continue to be reincarnated. The Jiva, there is a sense of that longing, that incompletion, it's not there. So therefore, better understand Brahman right now, right here. Don't wait for Laya. And also that is one extreme. The other extreme is, this is the irreligious person who says, somehow I want to bypass Ishvara. I have to do bypass surgery to come around Ishvara. So one way is to wait for everything to collapse, and then I will become one with the whole without needing to discuss and deal with Ishvara. This is the atheist point of view. And then on the other side we have extreme religiosity, in the sense that there also there is a lot of waiting. Wait karke, good karma. After doing a lot of good karma, I will become one with Bhagavan, will get to have breakfast with Bhagavan. Where? I will go to heaven. Heaven is a good place to go, visit. Just like the Caribbean, that's all. You go, you spend your traveler's checks, go to some island, some exotic island, you spend your traveler's checks, and after the last traveler's check, $20 American Express traveler's check is spent, then what? You have to head home. You have to come back. Here also you have some traveler's checks that you have earned here. And just like traveler's checks, they have, they have international, extraterrestrial currency in the form of your own meritorious deeds called punya. You take the punya and spend it for concert tickets. Really, heaven description is not very enticing to the Vedantin. One day featured Urvashi dance. Oh, very nice. Okay, good. Very nice. She is beautiful. She dances like a gazelle. Beautiful, very nice. Next day Rambha dance. And you say, next Urvashi Rambha duo. Then the Manushya Gandharvas are performing. So you see what they are doing there. Oh, next day even more special. Deva Gandharvas are performing. They are all just celestial performers with celestial instruments, celestial voices, celestial, all kinds of, shows, sound and light show. You get bored. How many concerts to attend? Day after day after day. So what about food? Well, there is no food. There is no food in heaven? How boring. I'm not going there. No, there is food, but you don't need to eat. Now this is sadistic, okay? There is food, but I can't get to eat it? Yes. Why? Because according to the Veda, you just need to smell the food and get all, you inhale the nutrients and the taste. Yeah. Like you do Naivedyam, Pranaya Swaha, Apalaya Swaha, Vyanaya, Devaha, Paroksha Priyaha. Remotely they are pleased. Yeah. That's why you make 108 laddus and offer it to Ganesha, and after that you can count. He will not have siphoned off 5 or 6 and left 97 on the plate. No. If he does that, that is the day you will stop making 108. Yeah. So one is enough. You don't even need to count. 108 lagatar will be there all the time. So that shows something, that you don't need to eat in heaven. It says that. Big deal, You don't have core issues. You never feel unwanted. You never feel like, oh, why am I here? Oh, that's the nice thing. I don't feel unwanted. I don't have core issues. I don't have digestive problems, because nothing is going in. So there is no digestive problems. You don't need to carry Pepto-Bismol. There is no, heartburn. ठीक है, वो सब अच्छा है. But there are no core issues, but there is still ajnanam, correct? Yeah, the primal ignorance has not been resolved. Therefore what? Shine punye. What happens? When the punya gets spent, martya lokam, dhadamiti vishanti. Yeah, makes a sound also, That's why probably every newborn baby cries, because it was interrupted from a concert. This is something which is fascinating, very interesting. Is that nowhere you can go and bypass the maker of the universe. You cannot. There is no place to hide. You have to reckon, you have to settle, as Pujya Swamiji says, you have to settle accounts with Ishvara. So who is this Ishvara? The one who you feel is constricting your freedom. I want moksha. If Ishvara was not there, I would get it right now. But I feel a constriction. There is no elbow room, because Ishvara is there in the form of karma. Yes? No, but how mean of Ishvara to give me karma? Karma means what? Whose karma is he giving you? Huh? Your own. Your own is coming gift wrapped, ready to be opened. It opens itself, in fact, year after year, day after day. Morning goes well, evening mood is off. Yesterday I was able to listen so well. Today I can't even make out the one sentence to another sentence connection. People say this to me. What happened? Karma happened. That's why Gayatri, that's why all the worship in the universe, that's why rituals, that's why prayers. Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. May I never go away from this teaching, from this knowledge. May this make sense to me. That is why one is to remain alert. So anything that constricts I'm already encountering the infallible way of Ishvara. I'm encountering the infallible aspect of Ishvara in my own life through all the obstacles and constrictions. Whenever there is an obstacle, whenever there is a difficulty, Ishvara has entered my life. Wow, what a form of darshan this is. Darshan of through obstacles. Darshan means everybody wants to see Ishvara. Where? And then we have this habit of looking up, which we learned from some other people. And then what happens? You look up and crick, there is a crane, the neck is craned and there is a crick in the neck. And then you say, ow. Don't say ow, say Ishvara. That was Ishvara there. That was a visit from Ishvara. How to see that as a visit from Ishvara? I thought that is I have to plan a visit to the chiropractor, but you are saying this is Ishvara. Yes, what leads me to the chiropractor is Ishvara. So more difficulties in one's life, more visitation from Ishvara. This is how to transform it. This is how to transform all difficulties into Ananda. So when karma comes, you have a karma attack. This is nothing but the vision of infallibility. That infallibility is a law. That's why we call it the law of karma. And this is accepted even in English books I have seen. The karmic law, they say. Everything is Ishvara. Any trouble is Ishvara. Trouble brewing in the house, Ishvara. Trouble brewing in the marriage, definitely Ishvara. Trouble brewing with children, Ishvara. It's all karma. Car trouble? Karma. Yeah. So, this is what it is. Everything is there is something infallible there. And here is where people feel hopeless. Oh, that means I can't do anything. Do. Who is asking you not to do? Do. Even prayer is doing, don't forget that. Here again, lot of mistaken understanding. What is there to pray? If you are weak-minded, you just sit and pray. Those who pray are weak. There are doers and prayers. I am a doer. I have to do. As though prayer is not doing. Prayer is karma. No, I sit and meditate. Manasam karma. No, I just chant. Vachikam karma. Puja. Kayikam karma. It is karma. Prayer itself is an action. It's the most powerful action on a powerful intervention. It's the most powerful intervention because it is accompanied by surrender to that which I have no power to control, to overcome. It is accompanied by humility, and finally it produces antibodies. Antibodies? Yeah, it's a vaccination. Prayer is a vaccination. Prayer is karma, correct? So this karma, it's called adrishta because you don't see the effects of prayer. You say, what happened to that yajna I did? When is it going to fructify? You don't know, you are not in charge. You means this body, mind, sense complex endowed person who is struggling to understand her relationship to the whole, to the universe. You don't know how the prayer is going to come forth. You have no idea. That's why it's called adrishta. Adrishta means unseen. You get a certain happiness. I have done my best, I have also prayed. That is called drishta phalam, the immediate effect. But then there is a deferred effect of prayer which is called adrishta. So, and what is the result of the uncomfortable situations in your life? Do you see them coming? No. Do you get an email? You know, Karma Inc. has sent you an email. Next 2 days I'm going to be horrible. And that may come in the form of daily horoscope. You know, people read daily horoscope. There it says, today please don't argue with anyone. It will lead to trouble. You will not get your way. If it said that once a year or once a month, I would be okay, but it says that every day. Today don't argue. Today don't argue. So maybe you can get a little karmic intimation from the horoscope saying that, you know, things are not going to go your way for the next 7.5 years. Yeah. Why 7.5 years? The cycle of Saturn through the 12th, 1st and 2nd houses in one's chart. Even in the Western horoscope they have something like that. They call it Saturn return. Why it should return, nobody knows. But return it does. Yeah. And wreaks havoc in your life. Saturn gives more vairagya than anyone in the whole, gamut of devatas, really. Saturn takes the shirt from the back. Yes, the effect of Saturn. Leaves you high and dry, and you have to bring your hands together and say, what is this all about? Why is this happening to me? That is the idea. Then Saturn says, TK, you can have your shirt back. The purpose has been achieved. This is the only tradition that looks at adversity not as something sent by God, but as a manifestation of Bhagavan. Wherever there is difficulty, there is Bhagavan. And I have the choice to relate to this Bhagavan. How to relate? I can keep screaming, I can have a fit, I can totally go ballistic and dysfunctional, or I can do my best, ride it out, gain the strength and the courage, and also pray. And in this prayer, there is a relationship. There is a relationship to that which I cannot ward off, which has a certain infallibility there. And the prayer creates adrishta. And this adrishta goes and counters that adrishta which is coming in the form of difficult karmas. And if the prarabdha, if the karma is not too strong, it can neutralize it completely, or at least, at best, it can reduce it. Make it much more bearable, gives the strength. So this is the individual jiva connecting to the total, because we cannot really bypass the total. It becomes adequately clear that this ananda that I am striving for, I told you in the first class itself, that it is always truncated. I got the promotion but not as much salary as I wanted. It is all responsibility, no salary. People frequently tell me that. I'm managing 3 departments. Oh, that's wonderful. But I'm not even being paid properly for one. Yeah. But the title is CEO. Okay. And sometimes it is the opposite, Lot of money but no job satisfaction. What's the point going there every day, wasting brain cells and then coming back and complaining? That is also there. So what is the factor that is truncating this? Because there is a certain constriction. Wherever I go, whatever I want to do, I can't. There is a constriction. And that constriction, I'm beginning with this because this is something I know intimately. Regardless of what religion I culture, nationality, which corner of the world I live in, there is a constriction. The neighbor seems to have a better life than I. This is the constriction. And to this constriction I have to overcome somehow. And I cannot bypass this constriction. I have to interrogate it, to inquire into it and see that this constriction is not a random constriction, number one. And it's not just happening to me. Even though the two favorite word japa, we have like a Panchakshari. What is Panchakshari? Om Namah Shivaya. Yeah, Namah Shivaya. 5 syllables. Then we have 9 syllables. Gayatri, 24 syllables. Like this in the West we have it. 2-syllable japa. Oh, this mantra also I want to learn. Can you please teach? I don't have to teach you, already know. Why me? Why me? Why me? Why this is happening to me? Why only me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? This is the japa. 2-syllabic japa. Okay, only if one person was doing it, you can understand. Okay, that person has been very sadly, badly, madly targeted by this thing called karma. But the problem is everyone is doing it. If 6 billion people in the world, each one is asking why me, there is something wrong, correct? Yeah. That means you are not being targeted. There is something, there is a law that transcends just this person called I. This individual who is endowed, I means here, the individual endowed with a body, mind, sense complex. There's something that's targeting. And this is not just some sadistic Bhagavan who is targeting you. Aajao, dekh lenge. Nobody is saying that. And in our tradition, the law is not different from the manifester of the law. Karma is a manifestation, it's not a dispensation. Please see the difference. Whether it's good karma or bad karma, it's a manifestation of Bhagavan. Certain days go very smoothly, it's like riding on the escalator. I don't have to waste calories, nothing is happening. I have a smooth ride from beginning to end. It was so easy. The whole day was so easy. Whatever I wanted, I got a seat on the bus, I got a ride, I had a very nice time. Everybody said, how are you? And they gave some present also, even though it was not my birthday, I got presents. And I had a good time. This is also Bhagavan. But of course this we forget. Because we think it's me. And bad karma thinks it's easy to shove it off. This is Bhagavan. That's why I started with constrictions and the effects of Papa Karma. Because there, if we are able to make friends with it and see the transcending order, the large order. Look at this beautiful order. How two people are meant to meet under some so-called accidental circumstances. They would have never met. And then they meet. Not only that, they get married. Then they can't stand each other. And then they have to learn to stand each other. Then they learn to grow from each other. Then their families are meeting. Then there are certain other things. It's just all these things. Nothing is an accident. The town you live in is not an accident. Your neighbors are not an accident. We saw that yesterday in the satsang. I was telling you that story. Your neighbor is not an accident. Your neighborhood is not an accident. The country you live in is not an accident. The person you are married to, you would think it's an accident, but it's not an accident. Your children who have come through you are not accidents. They are only incidents that you cannot see the antecedents of. That's why you consider them accidental. It's not an accident. There is a logic to it. And this logic, sometimes it escapes understanding. But you cannot deny its existence. It's very powerful. There is a logic, there is a method to this. Even though it may seem mad. Like, Hamlet. In that, Hamlet was reading a book. And that minister came, who was Polonius. And he asked Hamlet, what do you read? And Hamlet said, words, words, words. What he said was true. He was reading words. And then Polonius made a comment because they were a little concerned that he was talking to skulls. When you start talking to skulls, there is something funny, Unless you happen to be some kind of a pathologist or something, the one who does autopsies, then you can talk to skulls. But other than that, if you're talking to skulls, there is a problem there. You have to question the sanity. So everybody was questioning Hamlet's sanity. So they were giving him some tests every day. So to Polonius he said, words, words, words. And Polonius went to Hamlet's father and said, there is a method to his madness. He's mad, no doubt, but there is a method. It's a kind of a logical madness. This is what Ishvara is. When we don't understand, we say mad, but there is a method. There is a method, there is a logic, there is an overarching law. A law means two things. One is it is infallible. Just because I don't understand the workings of it, I cannot deny that their gravity exists. You cannot say I can fly, those will be the last words. Yeah, if you try to fly and say there is no gravity, you cannot, just because you may not understand the law of thermodynamics and all these things, you may not understand. But the fact that there is gravity, you cannot deny. This is what it is. That in the way I encounter the total completely, that which constricts my life is my own karma, which is dispensed in the form of a manifestation of Bhagavan. Really, it is less of a dispensation, more of a manifestation. And my free will that is given, that is what is there. I have the free will right now to redo this, to rewrite this karmic narrative. I have the free will right now. Forget what happened in the last life and the life before that, life before that. Who knows how many people I have killed, I have tortured, maimed, murdered, who knows what all I have done. Forget it, never mind. Thank God for Mother Maya, she has put a heavy curtain between each birth. Thank God. I don't have to, as it is, I feel guilty enough in this life without having to worry about who I abandoned in the last life. So now what to do? Now I have the choice to relate with the free will that has been given, which is also a manifestation of Bhagavan. To relate to the universe, to relate to others around me, and to relate to Bhagavan in a responsible way. And that is called dharma. Very beautiful. Dharma and karma go together. My own actions that I choose to follow, the choices that I make that are in line with the cosmic flow is called dharma. What is the cosmic flow? Again, it's a law. I don't want to be hurt. Therefore, I don't hurt others. That's the only way it can be enforced. I don't want to be deceived, defrauded, taken from, cheated. Therefore, I don't do that to others. This is the cosmic flow. And when I resist the cosmic flow, who gets hurt? I get hurt. The other person of course gets hurt, but more than that, I get hurt. Whenever I am angry, the doctors are telling this. You need to do some meditation. Western doctors are saying, because anger leads to heart attack, stress, all these things they are finding out. Blood pressure, hypertension. So therefore, I see that there is a certain cosmic flow, which is another manifestation of Bhagavan, called dharma. And whenever I am in tandem with it, my life suddenly goes very well. I sleep better, there is no conflict, I have done what is there to be done. And this dharma has three components. One is that which I sense universally. Regardless of anything, it is there, it is everywhere. Homicide has always been a culpable offense, regardless of which place you take and which point of history you take. It's not that in ancient Egypt or in ancient India it was okay to kill people, now it is not okay. No. This is what we mean by Samanya Dharma, universal law. Then we have the second component of Dharma is a collective law, specific to the time, specific to the place where I am located. Desha Dharma, Kala Dharma, which is called Vishesha Dharma. It also is universal, but it may change slightly from place to place, time to time. And this, we have so many examples. You know, how you eat. In India, we think the dining table is for the sake of keeping elbows. Correct? At least that's what I thought. And here they say, oh, take the elbows off the table. Yeah. In fact, it's easier to have the elbow on the table. Yeah. Especially if you're a South Indian, because any runaway rasam can be immediately mopped up. Yeah. Because it's right there. And you know, but even though it's logical to have the elbow on the table, they say, no, you should not have the elbow. Okay, theek hai. In Rome, do as the Romans do. And in India, my mother always said, don't talk while you eat. Don't talk, just eat. Okay. Then when I came into this country, I had a hard time. They said, let's go and talk it over lunch. Then, the first two people who took me to lunch, they were very disappointed because I didn't say a word. I thought we have to just eat quietly. Yeah. Then he said, okay, you go and eat over lunch. Over lunch you talk. It's a different culture. You go along with the flow. You learn to go with the flow. And that flow is a specific flow of Bhagavan. This may be called Ishta Devata, you know. Vishesha Dharma in the form of Ishta Devata. First there is a generic Bhagavan and then you have Ganesha. Correct? Yeah. Pasham Kushadhari. You know. Big ears. You know. Trunk. This is a desirable form for me. Somebody will say. Now somebody will say, no. Ganesha, what Ganesha? You know, I like Durga, the one who is the original tiger mom, you know. So, Tiger Mataji, I want the real one, you know. And somebody else may say, no, I like Vishnu, I want Krishna with all the flute and the what is that? The peacock feather and all this. This is mine. So like this, you know. This Vishesha Dharma is like that. It's a specific manifestation of Bhagavan, true to the time and place one is living in. And this also, I have to worship. Worship means accept. Worship means relate to. Worship means go along with the law, because if you rub against the law, you get rubbed. You have a miserable life. Forget Ananda. Forget even how to spell Ananda. You will be wondering which letter it starts with. We make our own misery through resistance, really. Then, that is the second component of Bhagavan in the form of Dharma. Then finally we have the third component, which is what? Swadharma, what I have to do. What is my lot here? It's only in this culture that what I do is Bhagavan. Imagine that. What I do is Bhagavan. My own work is Bhagavan. My work is worship. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavah. 46th verse in the last chapter of the Gita. Just like I put flowers at the altar, my own job well done becomes a form of worship. Only in this culture we can say that. This is Advaita, this is non-duality. My own job well done becomes a Swadharma. But why should I do my job nicely? Because it's a route to self-discovery. Because the primal identity of myself I have to discover. But that identity is overshadowed with the feeling I am a doer. The karta overshadows the being. The doer overshadows, I suppose, the beer. Yeah, not beer, okay? Yeah. The doer overshadows the one who just is, the being. But really speaking, we are not called human doing, correct? What are we called? Human being. But we don't know how to be. We don't know where to go. We don't know how to be. And so the recipe here is so infallible. It is as infallible as Bhagavan. After all, it is given by Bhagavan in the Bhagavad Gita. Sanctify what you do. Sanctify what you do. Follow dharma in everything, in your job, in your work, do your best and leave the consequences alone. And then what? You discover that your original identity is not the one who keeps doing. Because now you have put proxy Bhagavan as the doer. Bhagavan is the one who is giving the thing. That is why you sanctify the job. Bhagavan is doing, I am not doing. Bhagavan is giving the results of actions. Therefore it is prasada. And therefore what? I am free to discover myself. As what? As a devotee first. That is my original identity. My original identity is the one that relates to the total a devotee, really. It's the devotee that becomes son and daughter. It's the devotee that then becomes mother and father. It's the devotee that is the employer or the employee. This is what it is, and if this relationship is correct, then there is no stress. But then I shouldn't give away today evening's talk, should I? But this is, important in many respects. The devotee has to be discovered. Devotee means the one who is related to the whole. So I have to rediscover myself as a devotee. Because all there is just worshipful. There is nothing other than worshipful. So I learned to become a Jignasu Bhakta. That's what it is. A Jignasu devotee. A devotee who is seeking to know the truth of Bhagavan as myself. And on the level of the Jiva and Ishvara, there are so many trappings which are incidental. Like what are the trappings of the Jiva? We have already seen, constricted by karma. And karma is a law which is a manifestation of Bhagavan, which is affecting the life of this devotee, this Jiva, this individual. So the individual has so many trappings. What kind of trappings? Oh, limited finite body, limited mind, limited words, limited finances, of course, all the time. Limited resources, limited brain, limited memory, limited time, limited everything. And on the other hand, we have who? Ishvara, limitlessness personified. So the Jiva is so and so private limited. Yeah. And limitless is Bhagavan. Why only private limited? Why not public limited? That is also there. When a group of people come together and lament their limitations, it is public limited. Yeah. Support group. On the one hand is Jiva. On the other hand, Ishvara. Full of apara mahima, endless glory, limitless powers, limitless knowledge, the ability to overlord this Jiva. So where is the equation? Where can you say I am Brahman? Where is the Ananda coming out of this equation? The equation is not at the literal level. Yeah. And this is something which is very dangerous. You have to avoid that. Otherwise it creates a hubris. Somebody says I am Ishvara, I am Ishvara, I am Ishvara. You can think that if you are named Ishvara, then it's okay. But otherwise, you keep thinking I am Ishvara, and people have this. And sometimes you find this in religious leaders. One religious leader said, I don't know if he said it, but the followers, have all these big stories. And the followers said, our leader is Ishvara. Doesn't go to bathroom, therefore. Yeah. Doesn't go to bathroom. You see, in the room, there is no bathroom. And a group of scientists went, indeed, they couldn't find a bathroom. They said, wow, doesn't go to bathroom, must be Ishvara. Then long after he died, They found that under the bed was a trap door which led to a narrow stairs and there was a bathroom there. Why go through all this? This is some kind of a false thing. We are not talking about the equation at the level of the upadhi. Upadhi means the body, mind, sense complex. Like even this crystal, the crystal, if you put behind orange cloth, it will look orange. Then you change this cloth and put it behind some pink background, the crystal will look pink. This is upadhi, the various colors. This is Atma, that which has no form, no color, it lends itself to whatever it is associated with. But what we have to see here is this association? What is the reality of this association? Association between what and what? Is the thing that is associating and the thing with which it is associating belong to the same order of reality or not is something to be looked at. When? 15 minutes later. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Just take a quick 10-minute break, come back please. If you need to just get up, stretch, whatever. Don't go too far.